Okay, now on to the fuel tank. This is the bottom side of the fuel tank. It actually sits in the tractor like this. Right? Here's the fuel fill. This end towards the driver. This is where the fuel return goes in here for the return line from the injectors. And yeah, so that's all there is on the top side, except for this. This is where we're going to try to put that new sending unit in, and I'll show you. We'll get to that later. First, we're going to deal with the underside because this stuff is all just static, so we can put it together. So this is the sediment bowl, you might say. To the best of my knowledge, it is not removable. I don't want to mess with it, so I don't think that it is. I was able to fish around with a wire and clean everything out, and I flushed this out really well. Tank's in good shape. So all that goes in there is a petcock to drain it. So we'll be screwing that in. Okay. Then over here is the outlet for the tank, and it simply has so the supply line comes off of this and runs down over to the fuel filter, and this is just a pickup tube that sticks in there to try, I guess it sticks up a little bit above to try to avoid particles and what have you from getting down in there. It just simply screws in there. This is a shutoff valve. I already took this apart and put new seals in, a couple of new O-rings in it to make sure it was going to seal up fine. I can't remember exactly what the orientation of this is, so I probably will refrain from tightening it down all the way until I have this on the tractor. Plus, I actually may not even be installing it until I have it on the tractor because I've got some real clearance issues that I didn't realize in trying to get this tank back in the chassis after I put the motor in, because I took it out after the motor was out, and now I'm discovering that this doesn't want to clear the valve cover or rocker arms. I even took the valve cover off and tried to do it without that, and I still couldn't get this past there. I don't know what exactly I'm gonna have to do. I might have to remove those rocker arms assemblies in order to get this in there. So we'll do everything else in the meantime. It mounts with 3 studs like this. They're just they are odd in that they're coarse by fine. Don't know why, but they are. So the coarse end screws into the tanks. One was missing. The rear one wasn't even there when I took it apart. So I went and I did some running around, scramble around, try to find some, and I found one that's close. It's a little bit on the long side, but I think it'll be okay anyway, because they had bushings that went in there, and these bushings are just hammered out, pounded out, no good. But I have some old bushings. I don't even know what these came out of. That I saved. I don't remember what they were, but I have like 8 of them, so I'm just going to use those. I think they'll work just fine. I'll just push on there like so, and one more back here, and yeah, and I think it'll be just fine as far as that goes. These 2 studs that you can see here are for this wiring channel, for the wiring to come along underneath the fuel tank, and it's got a little outlet here in the center. So obviously something branched off this way. Like I say, the wiring harness was a mess on this thing, so I don't really know, but we'll utilize it, running the wiring out, and so that'll go just like so. And we'll chase the wiring up through it, hold it, and that'll be good. Yeah, so that's kind of really all there is to that. Not much more to talk about here on this thing, this portion. What else did I have? Yeah, nothing, I guess. So the biggest project, like I say, the fuel gauge was inoperable. And when I took it apart, the sending unit, the float and everything that goes in here, just fell apart in my hand. And so I got a gauge, a universal gauge and sender from a Napa store, and it just misses. The doggone bolt pattern is just barely off, so I'm gonna have to modify that a little bit or come up with some way to make that work. But the biggest problem is getting it in here, getting that float and the assembly in here. So we'll see. Let's work on that a little bit. And maybe I can reposition the camera to get you a better view of how this is going to go. So. Okay, so once again, this is where the original sender went, and it's got 5 screw holes. The new one, the replacement one, also has 5 screw holes, but they just miss lining up. So I guess I might have to drill and tap. I'll just rotate it a little bit, drill and tap new holes, because I just can't get those things to line up. So that's probably what's going to have to happen. So that's not going to be very fun. But the biggest issue, so this is a universal setup, and this float goes into this clamp, and then you just, I don't know, somehow, I guess it slides in there and it gets tightened down anyway, so that this thing will float properly, okay, and operate properly. I don't know. But I also don't know how in the world I am going to get that in there with that float on it. Now I think this all will come apart. It looks like, I mean, it slides. You can loosen these screws and it'll slide in and out a little bit. So maybe I can take it apart and get the float affixed to this part and try to get it in there and then try to tighten everything. I don't know how in the world I'm going to do this, but there's got to be a way. There will be a way. And it came with a matching gauge. It's calibrated for it, so that's good. So we'll put that in our dash. Just don't know how I could do that. This thing goes in there like so. Let me get a little screwdriver here. Okay, so this just slides in to this little bracket here, like so, and then you just tighten that screw to pinch down on it to hold it in place. Probably take a little Loctite once we figure this out. So, okay, so then the issue becomes getting all of this. Now I can get the float in, I can go up to here, but now what? How can I get that in there and make this work? And then it's going to have to be bent, so I'm probably going to have to take it in and out a few times. So I got to bend it I got to bend this wire to get the float travel right. So I don't know, this might be more trouble than it's worth, but I am bound and determined to make it happen. So let's start by loosening this slide assembly. So I could take that clear out. I don't suppose there's any way I could, I just don't know how to do this. Okay, let's take the wiring loose. Figure out, first of all, how to make that work. That shouldn't be too bad. I can just drill new holes and tap them. And it came with a new gasket and even looks like some self-tapping screws. So if I just get it drilled right, I think we'll be okay there. That portion. So how would I get this in? Let's see. Even if I could get that in there. It will pass through there. But then what? Okay, after much head scratching and trying to figure out how to make this thing work. This actually was a sending unit that's designed to go vertically in a tank, like so. But obviously I needed to go horizontally. So it actually ends up mounting in there upside down, which I don't think will matter. And so I mocked up on my table saw here. This would be the center line of the hole. The edge of the table saw here would be the bottom of the tank. So when I mock this up and I line this up on that, I can get pretty close. And the main thing that I'm concerned with is having it register empty, because you don't want to run out of fuel. I don't care if it doesn't read full properly, and I just can't get the right swing of motion here, but I got it as close as I could get it. I kind of, I wanted to err on the side of caution from empty, so that's what we went with. So after you can see, I kind of mangled that wire, that float wire, trying to get this, but I finally got it, and it's actually gonna hit the top of the tank when it's full, and so it'll just register full for a while and then start dropping down, you know, once it finally yeah. So anyway, it'll work, and I can get it in the tank. I've already test fitted that, so yeah, I think we're good. The only thing I realized I forgot to do was slip the gasket on there before I put that float arm on, because I don't think I can get that gasket over that. Maybe I can. Anyway, we'll try that. Had to modify. All I had to do was elongate a couple of holes here to make everything match. So that's good. So I don't know. I'm going to give it a try. If it doesn't work, then by golly, we'll just resort back to the stick method. But it'd be nice to at least have some idea what's in the tank. So that's what we're doing. So I'm going to try to get it installed here. Okay, and there it is, all installed. Looks pretty good, actually. Got a good new rubber gasket under there, and so I don't know. We'll see. It should work. I don't know why it wouldn't. So we should be fine. So that thing is ready to go. I do need to get a new gas cap. This one's been beat up and Doesn't have a gasket under it anymore. I mean, I can make a gasket, but I think I'm gonna do a fuel cap. And yeah, these bolts are, these screws are where the dash panel bolts to it. And that'll be our next project here. I'll show you that. I don't know if I'll do that yet today or what, but yeah, so we're getting there, by gosh. I hope that thing works. If it doesn't, I'm no worse off. I'm out $40, but I think it'll work. I don't see any reason why not. So, okay, on to the next project.